ooh, yeah, yeah. And it goes like, ooh, yeah, yeah. When I press play, all I hear is you. And it goes like, ooh, yeah, yeah. When I press play, all I hear is you. Oh, every single song tells me we're through. Yeah, but I can't turn it off 'cause it's the truth. Yeah, it's the truth. And it goes like, goes like, ooh, yeah, yeah. And it goes like, ooh, yeah, yeah. When I press play, all I hear is you. And it goes like, ooh, yeah, yeah. When I press play, all I hear is you. Oh, every single song tells me we're through. Yeah, but I can't turn it off 'cause it's the truth. Yeah, it's the truth. And it goes like, and it goes like, ooh, yeah, yeah. When I press play, all I hear is you. Oh, every single song tells me we're through. Yeah, but I can't turn it off 'cause it's the truth. And it goes like, ooh, yeah, yeah. Play, all I hear is you. Oh, press play, all I hear is you. Oh, every single song tells me we're through. Yeah, but I can't turn it off 'cause it's the truth. Yeah, it's the truth.
Hello, once again, everyone. Thank you so much for coming through to this event. Welcome again to the 2023 Art Fluence Human Rights Festival. We are on our last day. It has been an exciting week, lots of information that was shared, and we are here to share once more some great insights on these beautiful conversations we've been having, these beautiful performances that we've been having. Hopefully, you have been enjoying the festival, and even if it's your first time tuning into this session now, welcome. Thank you so much for finally tuning in. You are about to get something that is very valuable that you're going to be carrying out of this session. Now, today, it is all about audiences. We're talking about audiences in this session. We are talking about building an audience and a following, which is something that is very beneficial, especially for artists. But we know it is time consuming, and it is a completely different skill set from, making the art. So we are here to talk about how to connect your passion of art and also making it, converting those fans into customers and actually getting more fans as well. So we're talking marketing, we're talking all of those things. And I have on the panel some of the great women that are going to be sharing this information, who have made huge strides in this section. Particularly, we have Arisha Maharaj from Strauss Auctions .co, who also specializes in modern and contemporary art. We also have Usha, who has a master's degree in fine arts and has made huge strides. I'm just going to allow them to brag a bit about their achievements, about who they are, and the work that they do. And so let's welcome them in and let's greet them. And maybe we could start with you, Arisha. Hi.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Cool. So, who is Arisha, and what has she done lately?
So I am an art specialist at Strauss and Company. Strauss and Company is the leading art auctioneer in the country. We auction basically modern and contemporary artworks, focusing sort of in South African 20th century artworks and obviously contemporary and recently spreading throughout the continent and looking at contemporary African artwork as well. Personally, I have an undergraduate degree in fine arts from WITS, and then I also did my master's in history of art, also from WITS. I've also been with the company for about 7 years this year, so I've been there for quite a while. But yeah, I love the job, I love what we do, and it's never a dull day at Strauss, I can tell you that.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to more information sharing with you, Arisha. And we have the leading company here in terms of auctions, guys, and they auction art. If that does not excite you, I don't know what will. But let's hear from Usha as well. Hi, Usha.
Hi, Lushozi. Um, I am an artist, a contemporary artist. I have been my whole life. I think practicing for more than 20 years, building a career. Um, as a sculptor, I suppose, is my main medium. I've been fortunate to have completed a number of very large scale projects. So, in addition to kind of making work that goes into the gallery system, I've done a number of significant public artworks. Most recently, I made probably the most ambitious work and the largest scale that I've ever done, which was a work for Burning Man in Nevada, USA. It showed last year. I'm historically the first artist from the African continent to have shown on Burning Man as an honoraria artist. I received an honoraria for it. The work weighs 40 tons. It was produced in Lagos, traveled by ship. It's massive. So currently I'm working on also a few big projects, not that I can make any of it public. Maybe I'm doing a commission for JP Morgan, the bank. It's also quite a big artwork, and it should be installed in the next 2 months or so. I did my undergrad in fine art at UJ. I did a master's degree at Wits University, and currently I have just started an MBA through Henley, which we can talk about later. But it's from right brain to a different kind of logic, I guess.
Definitely. And that is all what we're going to be talking about here, actually, Usha, how to balance, from right brain to, all in a different way and making it work and making sure that it is bringing in the cash in the end and not just, making the art. And just as I've said, this is a very exciting, as you can hear for yourself, this is a very exciting panel. And I'd just like to start on the conversation and maybe let's just unpack on how it all started for you as an individual, in terms of getting into art, and when was that light bulb moment where you realized that I think I need to now focus on converting fans, people who appreciate my art, into customers?
Who are you asking, Lushozi?
Maybe we should start, we can start with you, Usha, and then we can get to Arisha as well.
Um, a number of years ago, I'd say about 10 years ago, maybe, I realized, I mean, there's social media and you can post things and so on. But
Yeah.
I realized that I wanted to speak to my audience in a very direct way. And I started a newsletter, a basic newsletter. I did it every month. So it was a monthly newsletter, and I had a very targeted audience. So I had very specific people who were already my fans, so to say. So they included collectors, people I'd worked with, people who've written about me, um, people who've bought my work, and generally people who are engaged in what I do, who are interested to receive what I do. And I did it for a few years, and then I couldn't sustain it because it was just a lot of work. And then I stopped for a long time. And now, last year, I started that again with huge success. And lots of people, in the break that I had stopped, lots of people were asking me, have I dropped off your mailing list? What's happened? How come I don't receive your newsletters anymore? So I do a little bit of social media and so on, but concurrent to that, this has been my main platform for engaging with my audience.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Arisha?
I guess mine comes from a bit of a different perspective. Obviously, the social media side that I'm involved in or part of is from the company's perspective. So in terms of like Strauss's social media, I guess posting from a company versus posting as an individual is very different. Obviously, posting from a company, you've got the company's name sort of at risk. You can't, if it's just you and you want to say whatever you want, it's okay. But if
Yeah.
you're posting on behalf of the company, if you say something inappropriate, it's the company's reputation at risk. Sorry, I'm in Joburg and there's a huge storm that's just started, so I hope you can still hear me. Yeah, is the rain okay? Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, we still can hear you. We can still hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I mean, in terms of the, well, I guess from a company perspective and looking at Strauss, it's looking at sort of who we are as a company. Obviously, we're an auction house, but we are a small company and we're all very passionate about what we do and very passionate about art. And we like to get that across. It's not just about what we've got on auction to sell. It's about actually why is this artwork so important? We love sharing the story about an artwork. We love showing important works that come to the market. We're also very big on education. So we also, in terms of social media, what we want to get across is basically what our mission statement is as a company, which is basically to be the most dynamic auction house in Africa and to show what we're passionate about, which is obviously art, South African art, huge on education, and also that we've got so many specialists working within the company. We always like to sort of profile our employees because everybody's whether it's in logistics, client liaisons, or actually the art specialists. Everyone comes from such great backgrounds and has such unique experiences. All of that, what we would like to and we try to show and display through social media. Yeah.
That is great. That is great. Now, Arisha, I think just to link on that as well, since you're working for a company and there's quite quite a marketing strategy linked to it. Maybe can you just take us through that marketing strategy? You know, what is working for you the most, and what maybe isn't working for you the most, and how are you dealing with all of that?
Yeah, I think in terms of a marketing strategy, it's we obviously have to also get some external expertise in terms of guidance. I remember the one thing that we did was to create sort of the ideal avatar. So who is your client? You know, if you could mold the perfect client that you want to follow your page, who is it? So I think that's something that was quite an important task to do. It's important to understand from a company perspective, basically, like, who are you, what is your product, and who do you want to follow you? Like, what type of person do you want looking at your social media, engaging, and potentially becoming a client, and hopefully a long-term client. So I think that was the first part of our marketing strategy was basically finding our identity, who we are, who we want to show. And then the next part of that is I had something in my mind and it's now disappeared. We also have basically what we call like contents of pillars of content, and that's to say to make sure that we in everything that we want to display. So, you know, like I said, we've got our education. We are obviously a company and we've got auctions. And so we also need to get the message across that this is what's coming up for auction. This is when our auctions are. It is also just about being sort of like clear, concise. There was something really important I wanted to tell you about strategy, which has skipped my mind. But I'm sure I'll remember it just now.
Yeah, maybe we'll find that out. I like the points that you're mentioning, you know, and finding yourself first as as a company, and you know, being able to move from that point of view. I think it's very important, especially for artists coming along and they're looking to also convert their fans into customers. That it's very important to stick to who you are first, finding who you are in this vast world of social media right now. You know, you can be a lot of things. You know, people now can be brands. You know, it's not only things that can be brands now, but also people as well. And I think, Usha, as an individual artist, you know, how do you like make sure that you keep in touch with your fans, and why do you think this is important? So, in terms of, I know you mentioned your newsletter. How else do you keep in touch with your customers, and why do you think this is, you know, important?
I think it's important because, firstly, they are interested in what I do as an artist. And secondly, they want to support uh, an artist like myself. And that may sometimes it's a sale of an artwork. That's like the most direct kind of support. But inevitably, like I noticed every time I send out my newsletter, within the next few weeks, there's like somebody will call and say, you know, we're doing a project here, and do you want to be a part of that? In fact, me being on this platform was after I sent out my newsletter. So like there's
Wow,
always
yeah.
like, and I think it's about being top of mind. So when you send out, and that's why I think it's important, like in my case, to send out to a targeted audience. Yes, I also post on social media. I do Instagram and Facebook and so on. I'm not very good at it. I think I could be much more active and much more strategic about it.
Yeah.
But even that, even as unplanned and erratic as that may be, I think there's always a response. So it keeps me top of mind for others. But also, I think because they see specific things that I'm doing within their own context, they start making connections to say, oh, okay, she's done a mosaic. We're working on a mosaic project. Maybe you can be involved. Oh, you've done a newsletter. Come and speak on our platform about social media. You know, so there's
Yeah.
always like this kind of connections. Yeah.
Wow, I like that. I like that. And especially, I'm imagining that, writing a newsletter can be time consuming, but it is proving to be the one that is most effective. Maybe also, Arisha, you can share your maybe a strategy that is time consuming, but you see that it is actually very effective when it comes to, getting those customers.
Yeah. I remembered what I wanted to say, which also ties in with the question you asked me now. In terms of what we see that works and trends and things that go well is, um, again, remembering that I'm coming from a company perspective, it's actually show that there's a human element, that there's people working within a company. When you post from a company page, it can sometimes be very static, and you don't know, it's not a personal page. You don't know who exactly is posting. So what we do realize is when you make posts that are a bit more human, a bit more accessible, when you put pictures of people, especially, that always performs well. When you can see the people working within the company, people are a lot more those posts and that gets a lot more reaction, because it basically brings in that human element. You're not just giving static sort of, this is the date of the auction, please
Yeah.
attend. It's a bit more of a human element. In terms of doing posts, it's I mean, we probably all know that social media is very time consuming. It takes a lot of
Yeah.
time, it takes a lot of effort, and I commend
Yeah.
people who do this because it's insane. And creating good content, I think, is something that's very time consuming, but very worth it. I've seen that when we put in a bit of extra time, money, and effort into creating a reel and getting in a professional videographer or to make something like that and we post it, it does go a lot further than just a static post. So I do think good content creation is very important, but it is very time consuming.
Can
Wow,
I
I
can
like
I
that. Yeah.
comment?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
I, that human element, I think, is a key point, because what's nice about this platform that I use is that I get a lot of feedback. So it helps me gauge where I'm going. And one of the things a lot of people say is that they like how it feels like I'm speaking to them. So I write
Mm,
it in first person, and I try and find a good formal, informal balance. So it's not too formal, it's not too personal, but at the same time, it makes somebody feel comfortable. I try to keep it not very wordy, not heavy theoretical,
yeah.
minimal text that's kind of descriptive, lots of images. And I think when I put myself in the position of the recipient of the newsletter, I want them to feel comfortable. Like it's informative, but it's also like it's nice. It's nice to read, and it's a quick read. I don't want it to be too long either.
Yeah. So sometimes you can get lost in the definition of actually what you're explaining. I think that's a very important point. And I think both are mentioning that human element and looking at Arisha as well, working from a company perspective, and Usha as well. Would you say it is then important for an artist to, distinguish between the personal page, maybe, or the personal brand, and then having this artist sort of vibe going on onto another page as well, onto another platform, or it can just be one, thing that just flows. And I don't know what your opinion on that one is. Maybe Usha, how do you do it?
It's a tricky one because I've seen like other artist pages, and like I don't really want to know what they're having for breakfast, and and it does get like a
Yeah.
bit confusing. So for me, I keep like my Instagram page. I try to keep it more art related, but then also it's like there is the lines do get a bit blurred because I think people also want to know when I'm traveling and I'm looking at a tourist site, or sometimes there's like something personal that's not art related. Recently, I ran my first ever 10-kilometer marathon. So I put that on, but I didn't
Yeah.
put it on Instagram because I thought like maybe it's not art, it's not related to art. So I put it only on
Mm.
Facebook, which I find Facebook has a different audience. I know it's a dying audience. I know a lot of my
Yeah.
aunts and family are on there, but they want to know that I've run a 10K race.
Mm.
So it
Mm.
is, and I am acutely aware of that, of what to put where. And I'm also aware of other artists who post very personal things. But being an artist also is a bit of a personality. And so sometimes your fans do want to know the personal stuff. For me, my own positioning, I've kept it a bit separate, but I can see how it works for other artists. So I don't know if there's a clear-cut rule around that specifically for artists.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, in my personal, I have two Instagram pages. So one is my personal page where I put obviously my family pictures and friends and food and when we travel. And I mean, I love to do that because it's sort of like this album record that but that's sort of a private account that I only have like friends and family that follow me. And then I have my art account where I post about all the artworks and what I want to say. I guess it's different because I come from more of an art historian point of view as opposed to practicing artist. But I mean, to be honest, lines do get blurry, but there are also two different audiences. I've got friends who really don't care about art and don't want to see my long posts about why this artwork is so nice. And I've also got people that follow my art page that don't care what I'm doing on the weekend. So I personally, how I like to do it is I like to keep it separate. Also because then on an art page, I can keep that page open. Anybody can see it, anybody can read what I have to say about whatever artworks, and then obviously my private life is still private. So I guess it depends from person to person. I know artists who just have one page and everything's on there, and it's quite nice because then you get to see the artist, you get to see but it is, all I can say is managing a social media page is a lot of work. And it is hard to not overstep, and obviously you don't want something in your personal life to impact the way people view you in a professional light. So I think it's something that if I had to give advice, I would say it's something that everyone should be very conscious of. And to know that if you're putting something out there on social media, it's out there on social media, especially if you've got sort of an open page or a public page. I do think there's benefits to having one page. I do think there's benefits to having separate. Always just be conscious no matter which one you do. That's all I would have to say about it.
And another way of doing it really is that I sometimes differentiate between what I post as a post and what I post as a story. And because a story is going to disappear after a while, I can kind of be a bit more personal on that one, or more provocative maybe,
Wow, those are some insights over there, actually. I like that a lot. I think if someone is still confused as to what to do, I think they can use that strategy definitely of just having one for now and more personal stuff on the story, and maybe, more of what you do on the page. Now, with so much changing in terms of how we consume content, and how we consume media, and even our attention span apparently is keeps on decreasing. How are you ensuring that you are keeping to on top of your game, achieving such strides, Usha, being the first in the US, being the first African in the US to actually exhibit 40-ton art? How do you keep that balance of this ever-changing world?
I think I haven't exploited it enough. I mean, I don't think if I had hired a professional marketing person, I think I would have gotten much more out of it. For me, I also I sometimes forget to post. It's true, because I get so immersed into the production of the work and the management of that, and especially a project of this scale. That posting, sometimes I have to remember, let me post something. So unless I kind of plan it a bit, sometimes I think, okay, I want to plan doing it. Like that project in particular, I was in the desert in the middle of the US where there was no connection, and I only started posting after the fact. So it's only after I got back that in retrospect I started posting, and people didn't realize that. They thought I was still there. And also, so I had decided, okay, I'm going to post this chronologically. So I started with the build, then I added how it progressed. But in the meantime, it was done already. But for the audience, I'm taking them on a journey where they think it's current, but it wasn't. And I had to explain now and again to say, no, actually, I'm back and it's done already. I'm not in the US
Mm,
anymore.
mm, mm.
But it is, yeah, it is something for me that I have to consciously make effort to do
To do.
and keep at it because it's easy to forget to do it.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I think even today, that's all that it's all about. Actually, to encourage artists to post more of their artwork and to get their artwork there, and to also convert those fans into actually customers. Now, looking at Strauss, they just sold, record-breaking price in Africa with one of their artwork. And again, I think it's the same question: like, how do you keep like on top of your game with people's attention span decreasing, with a lot of things around us happening as well, a lot of things require our attention. What is it that you would say as a company is the one that just grabs people's attention and just says, please focus my attention on me, focus your attention on me, this is something great for you? Arisha?
She's frozen.
Yeah. It seems like we're having a bit of connectivity issues there with ah yeah, it seems like we're having a bit of connectivity issues there with Arisha as well. Oh,
Sorry,
you're back.
am I back?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry about
Can you
that.
hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
So
Sorry.
I'm not sure if you got the question, but I can repeat. Looking at Strauss auctions, they just made a record sale in Africa on one of their arts. The question is, how do you keep on top of your game with so much happening and so much requiring our attention? How are you able to just have that thing out there that says, "Look at me," and just forget about other things at the moment and just focus on me? How are you able to grab people's attention with so much happening, even on their screens?
Yeah, it is hard. I think you get highs and lows. So obviously, when we hit our record breaking sale, that made news because I mean we sold a painting for, I forgot the amount, but a lot of money, and that basically it grabs attention. It's something like that. When you've got a headline saying Strauss sells Irma Stern for whatever million rand, everybody's going to sort of look at it. You, like I said, you get highs and lows. There's times when we have to be a lot more active on social media, like leading up to a sale. We're going to make sure that our team is on it. We're going to make sure that we're checking. I mean, it takes time and effort to look at what's trending, what are the hashtags going, what are the sounds trending. Is Reels doing better or posts doing better? A lot of it is sort of trial and error. I think what's important is that you can't always be on. Some posts are going to perform better than other posts, and then it's just sort of like at certain points when you need it, you put in that extra effort. You make sure you're tagging all like the trending hashtags and using all the trending sort of songs and whatever's sort of out there. And also then you also try as sort of like a company within, from if we post something from the Strauss page, maybe we'll share it on our personal pages to try and get sort of that sort of that spread and that traction. But it is hard. There's so much. There's so many. There's so much out there. There's so much on the internet. There's so much on. I mean, I'm mainly talking about Instagram, but I mean, there's TikTok, there's Facebook, there's a whole lot of other apps I haven't even heard of. But there's a lot of content out there to consume. I think it is also important you reduce what you want to get out there to the audience. You need to see it. I mean, you don't maybe need the whole world to see it because the art world is probably a lot smaller, especially in South Africa. But you kind of need to make sure that you're getting the best reach within the pool of people you want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is very important, actually, just knowing your niche as well and actually how to reach it. I think that's something that is actually very important. Now, again, another question I have is like, what interesting insights can you share can you provide on how to build relationships with people who follow art? When if I'm for example me, if I'm just starting out in art, and I just like to know how to build a relationship with people who follow art first of all, because I think that's where it starts. Building that community, and then maybe moving on to converting that community into commerce and something that is sustainable. What are some of the insights can you provide in terms of being able to build that community? I think if we can start with Usha, what are some of the insights can you provide on that part?
I think regularity is important, even if it's not every day. I don't think, I think you need to get the timing right. But regularity and interesting content. Um, I think it's important to be authentic, to be yourself. And however, I mean, if you are quite expressive and out there, then the content should match who you are. If you're a quieter person and like to maybe show process of how you work, so I think just like making art, actually, it's important to be yourself and let who you are come through in how you communicate that. I noticed some artists like post a lot and then you don't hear from them for a long time. And so I think it's important to be regular and consistent. My son is a young teenager and he has grown a substantial following on YouTube and TikTok with content related to Marvel and Harry Potter and whatever. But he's grown like a huge following.
Yeah.
And I asked him, like, how is it that you can get 1 million views on a video? Like, if I get 100 views, I'm excited, you know. And,
Yeah.
and he said to me, honestly, Mom, I think your videos are not very dynamic.
Wow,
I
how's that?
looked at some of my videos and I was like, he's right. They're not dynamic at all, you know.
Mm, mm,
But I think also like the youth, like they understand you. Earlier you asked about like this
mm,
so much of content that's out there that we consume. But I think like I'm of a different generation. We didn't grow up with social media. It's something that I have to learn and I have to consciously do.
mm,
But for the teenagers and for the 20-year-olds, and this is like part of their language. They understand this. It comes like this. So
mm,
I think also for me, I have to think about who is my audience and who am I, and what is the fit between those two.
mm, mm. Yeah, definitely. I think your son just got another view from me. I'm definitely going to be checking him out because I'm a Marvel fan myself. Uh,
Oh,
so definitely. And Arisha, I think you said you've been with the company for 7 years, and I'd just like you to share also some insights in the 7 years, looking at how the community has been expanding. What do you think are some of the things that have worked in that community building aspect, and that relationship keeping also aspect?
So I think definitely as important as social media and everything is, I still think the personal knowing somebody and meeting them face to face is number one. I think that is still the best way to connect with someone. And I think the strategy that we aim to use is we use our social media to sort of find people that might not have sort of come across us, and people from social media to then come meet you, come and see where we are, come and see our space, come see the artwork, come meet us face to face, and then you'll remember us, and then we'll also remember you. I also think that I like what Usha said about regularity and being consistent. You want to consistently be like, yes, I'm still here. This is what we're doing. This is what's happening. But it's better to remember someone or even artists and things like that when you've actually had an experience outside of the virtual world. So I think it's definitely key to sort of from a starting point on social media, interact with your, make sure you look at the comments, see who's interacting with you, interact back. I think that's also very important. You've also got to acknowledge and recognize your followers and people who are following your page. And then I always find it's best to get them to come to the company. We often hold a lot of events at Strauss, and that's obviously the best place to meet people, to mingle. And I think once they come in, and we were such a friendly team, I think, but as soon as you come and see the space, you'll remember the space, you'll remember the team. Then you also feel more comfortable once you know that because I know I always get the comment that the art world is so intimidating, that it's so intimidating. How am I supposed to know what artwork means? How am I supposed to, I don't want to just walk in and look like an idiot. Like that's honestly what people always say.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely important to try and break those boundaries. I think social media is a good way for people to enter into the art world without having to feel too intimidated, but then taking that next step into actually coming into an artist studio, coming to a gallery, coming to an opening show. I mean, that's the best way to then meet the artists, to then see the artists, see the work physically. And I think that's a very important aspect of it.
Wow, I like that actually. I like that, especially mentioning that, I don't want to walk into an art space and not know what this artwork means. Maybe that carries a deeper meaning, even with the one I had in mind, because I was looking at the artwork actually that sold its record high. I was like, to me, this is such a simple artwork, but selling for this much, I guess it means something bigger. So I'm not sure if there's a space where you actually educate people in terms of how to read art, and just talking about that, having workshops and even responding on the comments on social media. Has that helped you, shape the way you communicate to your people as well? Maybe there are some insights that you get here and there when people also come to the space. Can you share that part just a bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the main thing is we really try hard to break those perceptions. And I mean, it is confusing when you see an artwork sell for so much. Often people call and say, "But what's the difference between that artwork and this artwork?
Yeah.
Like, why is that selling for so much, and
Yeah.
why is this one not?" I must say, we love talking about artworks. Between all the specialists, I mean, come and ask us. We can talk your ear off for days. For the record selling artwork, it was an Irma Stern, and she's obviously quite important in our in South African art history. She was quite radical in her time frame in creating artworks. So she's quite an important figure in South African art. The painting that sold also was quite an important artwork that we had on offer. And leading up to the sale, obviously, once the artwork sold, a lot of press came after that. Before the sale, there was obviously we held lectures, we held talks. We've got videos up on our YouTube channel. We post about it, we write about the work, and it's all of that we do because we're also very passionate about, like I said, education. A lot of it is about education. Especially in South Africa, our galleries our museums aren't as well visited as what you would get sort of in Europe. I mean, nobody even goes to the Johannesburg Art Gallery. We're so limited in terms of places you can go. So we do feel a great responsibility of putting it out there in terms of what amazing artworks we do have in the country, to write about them, to talk about them, to show them. I think we really are very passionate about that, and we host a lot of talks. So we do a lot of basically what we call walkabouts. We come to our space, have a look at the paintings, see them, hear us talk about them, and and I think that's a good way to sort of start breaking that barrier, start making people feel more comfortable, start getting those people to sort of also understand it, because often what hits the media and what hits the press is all the numbers. But we do also encourage that people sort of look deeper into it. We always see the titles of this artwork selling for so many million, and then you get all the comments saying negative things about it.
Yeah.
but it's always important to just understand, maybe take that extra step, and all the information is out there. It is on the website, it is in articles, to take that little sort of extra step and see, well, what has been said about it, why is it so important? That.
Wow, thank you so much, Arisha, for that. And then, Usha, are you in the business of, explaining what your art means and, the message that it carries? Maybe, and if you do, what are some of the insights that you've gotten from that? Maybe some of the feedback that you've gotten from that, some key metrics that you can also share with us.
In terms of the content that I post?
Yeah, so in terms of the content, do you explain like what does your art portrays, and do you think that is actually beneficial, or do you stick to people who know how to read the art and how to communicate with an artwork?
Yeah. I think I assume that my audience is an art literate audience, and so I don't explain too much. I often put the title. I think most people are not interested, or maybe they are. I don't know. If in the comments people ask for more information, so I tend to keep it quite brief, and I tend
Yeah.
to keep it descriptive of process, and sometimes like what it means and what it's about, but not too heavy. And I think if anybody wants to go the heavy route, then it can go so privately or in the chat, and I'm happy to go there. But
Yeah.
it's not what I start off with. So I keep it quite light. I keep it quite sometimes quirky, sometimes humorous, sometimes descriptive of the process or contextual. Like mostly I say, oh, this is the title of the work and it's showing on this exhibition in this place, so that it gives some kind of context to what is there. And then it can go deeper in other ways. That seems to work for me. In terms of a matrix, I haven't been strategic enough at all. And I'll be honest about that. I have noticed that sometimes what you think is going to get a lot of response doesn't. And sometimes what you don't expect to get a response gets like a huge response. It's interesting. And I haven't figured out what's what, but I also haven't invested enough into analyzing that and making that work. I know my son has, like he's worked out the length of videos. He's looked at, what's this word? The algorithms.
Yeah.
I asked him why does he not post every day? Why does he only post like so many times a week, and he posts in the evening? And his response was, well, I've studied the algorithms. I'm like, of course you have. And he noticed when is the best time to post, and he's tested, like if I make a video this long, what is the response in this long, and so kind of figured out what's in between. But that's, I mean, I don't, honestly, I don't have the time to do that right now, and it isn't my absolute priority. And when it is, I will invest in it or get somebody else who can. But I'm busy. I'm making work. I'm studying. So, like, as much as it should, I know I should be doing it more. I don't have the time for it, which is a reality. And I think that's also something that's important, that you need to make time to do so.
Yeah. Definitely. And now looking on to, the changes that came through, I think for the rest of the world, actually having to be forced to actually adapt to this online world real quickly in just a year, in just a few months, actually, when I think we had only 21 days to just adapt to the online world. When the COVID started, we were given a warning of just 21 days to just adapt. And, also looking at how Strauss auction actually adapted to that. How were they able to quickly adapt into that online space, and now having these two platforms coexisting, where you can actually have a live auction and also have an online auction at the same time. How was that adaptation for you, Arisha?
Yeah, it was, I must say, I think COVID sort of threw us into the deep end. which I also think it benefited us, and kind of yeah, I mean, it was scary. Look at how we were going to do it, and that's when we started the live virtual auction. So that means.
Oh, I think we lost Arisha.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You're back. I think we lost you at explaining the both live auction and an online auction.
Yeah. So we actually started online auctions back in 2013. So we did have that platform sort of already existing, and it was functioning really well. I mean, people bid online, but definitely in terms of the older generation, they were still hesitant to go online, which is obviously understandable. And then we had our live auctions, which obviously we would have sort of 200 people in a room bidding. Going into COVID, everyone was just forced online, which actually benefited us a lot, because it basically forced a lot of our clients to actually use the online platform and see how it works. It gave a lot of people more confidence in the online space. And we've definitely seen a lot of clients. I mean, now our live auctions, you can basically bid at home and bid from the comfort of your pajamas and warm fire, which I think a lot of people have done. Our auction rooms, which used to have 200 people, now have 20. We're hoping that it will get back to the day that everybody comes, because I mean, it's just sort of the magic of an auction is having this room full of people. But I mean, it also went from having 200 people in the room to then having 800 people online. So it's definitely grown. I mean, having that access, having people using the online platform, it's also grown our audience to not just be in South Africa or just in Joburg. You can be literally anywhere in the world. So if our clients are traveling, it's not a problem. You can be in Miami bidding on our Strauss Johannesburg auction. It also opened us up to a lot more international buyers, a lot more international clients. So there's definitely been a lot of benefits that came out of having to be pushed onto that digital space. And I mean, it's sort of like it's the internet and online. It's all really scary, especially with AI and everything coming. But I think once you understand it, once you can use it to your advantage, there's a lot of benefits to come from it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for that, Arisha. And then Usha, did you feel sort of a challenge in terms of adapting from exhibitions happening live, and how did you transition to that? How did you manage that actually? Not being able to do exhibitions face to face or physically.
For me, it was really hard. I had 2 years of exhibitions planned, most of which was international. Fortunately, none of it got cancelled, and some of them went online, some of them got postponed. I had my first international solo at a museum in Rotterdam, and the work was already there, but I couldn't go, and neither could the curator. And we installed it virtually. We were like on WhatsApp, like move it a little bit here and turn it here. And for me, it was completely heartbreaking that this was a big milestone moment in my career, and I couldn't be there, So I struggled. I mean, some other things became easier. There were lots of platforms like this where there were discussions and talks, and in many ways, the world became much smaller. But I think there's something about the tangibility of artwork in the flesh. The absence of that for me didn't work. I mean, I was on one show that was a virtual exhibition where you navigate on your computer and you can move into the space and so on. And it didn't work for me. I think the experience of being in a space, because I think as much as we say it's visual art, it's complete. The experience of it is completely sensory, right? It's not just being able to see. You need to feel the work. You need to smell the paint. You need to, it's all of that. It's like a full sensory experience. So online, I think, just doesn't do it for me. Sure, there are platforms like video and sound work and all of that, and one can make a case for that. But personally, it was very hard.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine, especially when it comes to exhibitions, and now we have virtual reality that's also threatening that exhibition kind of platform there. And so I think there's a lot happening. But going back into, marketing your artwork, what would you advise an artist that is really, who has absolutely no interest, in marketing their artwork or in diving into marketing? What would you say to them as sort of to highlight the need to get your artwork out there, whether it by a newsletter or it by through social media? What would you advise such an artist?
I would say that a key part of being an artist is growing your audience as wide and as far as you can, because that's what you want. You want reach. You want as many people to experience what you do, and so it's important to market your work. It's important to widen that audience, to grow that audience, to grow that reach. And I think we, in a time now where we are quite lucky to have such a wide reach. You can put something now and somebody in New York can see your work, somebody in Helsinki or who knows where, and it's so easy for people to get in touch with you. I don't know if anybody does this anymore, but I remember when I first started, I used to print business cards. And whenever I traveled overseas, I used to hand out my business cards. Nobody does that anymore. But there's no need for it. I don't need to go to London to have somebody from London contact me about my work. It's actually wonderful that you can do this in such an easy way. And so I would say that if you're not taking advantage of that, you're losing out.
Yeah, definitely. I like that mention. Quite a lot of things mentioned there, Usha. Thank you so much. And I think here's Usha, one of our audiences, actually highlighting that a key part of being an artist is growing your audience. And I like the mention that I think artists should take advantage of that. Arisha, I'm not sure if you caught the question, and maybe you can respond to that as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's so important. In terms of anything, the first place people go to now is they Google your name. They Google your name or they look you up on Instagram. And that is your business card.
Yes.
I remember, back when I was applying for VIT, you had to do a portfolio, and you literally, that was printing out, that was going with this huge A3 portfolio bag, and that was your portfolio. You just lug it around. It was massive. It hurt your shoulders. Now it's all online. Like it's I must say, I mean, I know the Instagram platform probably more than the others, but it's literally a free platform to display your work, show your best work, show who you are. And I mean, I think I definitely know that it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of effort to put it together and manage it. But the benefits that can come out of it are huge. If you, like you said, now instead of handing a business card, you just tell the person your name, they follow you on Instagram, and there's this constant reminder of who you are on someone's phone. Your reach is huge. I mean, you can reach people from the UK, from the US, from wherever your target audience is. I think there's a huge benefit to basically using social media to your advantage. Create your portfolio, show people what you can do, and that way it's so easy for people to contact you, for you to contact other people, for you to build a community base, and also for collaborations. I mean, like when you see an artist that you want to collaborate with, you can literally see, hey, I like your stuff, I do similar things, let's work together. The basically the opportunity, the doors that media can open for you as an artist are basically endless. So I really encourage artists to basically just use it to your advantage. It's there for the taking.
I definitely like the mention of those as well, since even the topic that we're discussing today is who's stalking your social media. And honestly, you never know who's stalking your social media, because even recently I just found out that those accounts that you can't read their names and whatnot, it could be other people, because apparently there's a platform where you can just create a fake account and just stalk someone. So really you never know who's watching actually. Even though they're keeping that private, and I think it's very important to keep that private as well, so that you actually keep doing social media. And I think even for the people watching at home right now, I think now would be the time, if they have any questions, if they have any maybe opinions to share as well. This is an open space. We are going to be sharing your questions here, and our panel is ready to actually answer your questions right here on the platform. And I think it has been amazing actually hosting this space with Usha and Arisha. I'm not sure if you guys maybe would like to ask anything amongst yourselves. Maybe you have a question for Usha, Arisha, or Usha, you have a question for Arisha.
I have a comment about your statement about being stalked, or not a comment, a story to share.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, it was at the Cape Town Art Fair, and this woman came up to me, and just to create context, she was an elderly white woman, and she came up to me and she was like, "Hey, Usha, how are you doing?" She was so friendly, and I was trying to place her, like often you meet somebody and you're not sure, and I just couldn't. But she was so friendly and so familiar that I
Yeah.
felt like I should know who she is. And
Mm.
she was like asking me, "How's this happening? And how is that exhibition? And she asked me, how's your son?" And then I said to her, I'm sorry, but like, where do we know each other from? Turns out we've never met, but she stalks me on social
On
media.
social media.
So she's in
Wow.
the arts community, but
Mm.
I posted something about my son not being well, or I don't know, so I can't even remember. But
Mm.
she knew everything about me. She knew, she was bringing up all these things about my life,
Yeah.
which even I had forgotten about. And
Mm.
it was quite scary. It was quite scary that somebody can take such a deep interest in you and what you do. And
Mm.
it was actually after that I stopped posting a lot of personal things and
Personal
just
things.
started keeping it quite limited in terms of what I post.
I think that is such a beautiful story, actually. And as much as it is scary, I'm looking at it at the point of, then she went on asking, when is your next exhibition? Where is your next exhibition as well? I think that personal touch also kind of makes that person even much more of a super fan, that we actually met Usha today, the person who does this artwork that you love so much. And we do have a question from Facebook, rather, from Tara Weber. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She is asking that from a secondary market point of view, how important is documentation and marketing for future valuation? I think maybe Arisha, you could go for that one.
That's actually quite a very good question. So, documentation is very important. So, it's what we call provenance. So, provenance of an artwork. So, it basically means the history of an artwork. So, often we deal with artworks from basically the early 1900s, etc. And part of our job is to basically track back that artwork. So, we want to know, was this from the time it was produced, what happened to it to the point it comes to us. So was it featured in any exhibitions? Did anybody significant own this artwork? How did it change hands from the time it was made up until now? Having that documentation is vital. It's so important. It's important in making sure that the work is obviously authentic, firstly. And secondly, it can add to the value of the work. If your artwork was in a significant exhibition, if it was owned by somebody not really of importance, but if it was in maybe a state collection, if it was part of a significant known public collection, that does add basically interest in the work, if it was commissioned for a specific purpose. So documentation of artwork is very vital. It's very key. It's also important in basically keeping a record of the artwork. So definitely documentation is very, very, very important. Using social media as documentation for an artwork can become a bit tricky because obviously sometimes people remove posts. It's easy to social media in that aspect can be a bit blurry. It is nice to obviously show your work, but in terms of an artist documenting their work, it is very important to do it in sort of maybe a more formal manner, and definitely keep records of where your work has been shown, illustrated, if it's been included in any literature, any academic writing. But yeah, definitely highly emphasize documentation is very important.
Definitely. Thank you so much. I'm not sure, Usha, if you'd like to get in there for maybe 30 seconds and just also answer that one.
Definitely. I mean, it cannot be emphasized enough how important it is to document your work. And just as a tip, I wanted to share a tip for artists who make work on paper, that after the artwork is done, make sure you sign it and then document before it gets framed. Because once it's framed, it's very difficult to document. But also, once you make the artwork and it leaves your studio, if you haven't documented it before it's left, it's gone. And then there's always somebody who writes about your work, who wants, and they say, oh, we need a high-res image of that piece. There's a publication happening and you don't have images, So it's paramount, I would say, to document and to document well. If you can't do it yourself, like myself, I get a professional person to come and document it for me. Good lighting, detailed shots, wide shots, that's it.
Oh, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. Thank you so much, ladies. I think we've learned a lot from this session. I myself have learned a lot from this session, and the importance of actually, connecting to the people who like your work and different ways of actually connecting to the people who like your work. I think what you shared here today is very important. Hopefully, to the artists listening, they can take some tips and tricks as well to use on their personal space, on their personal artwork that they do. And I think it is very important. Thank you so much, Usha. Thank you so much, Arisha, for your time. Thank you so much for sharing this knowledge again. Thank you so much to everyone who was tuning in. Hopefully they got something out of this. And the Artfluence Festival is still continuing. It's ending today. So make sure that you keep tuned into our socials at Artfluence on Instagram, and I think on Facebook as well. It is Artfluence, just to keep a watch. You can also, if you just tuned in and you don't know what was happening, this live session is also going to be available on Facebook and YouTube as well. So you can rewatch it again and maybe go back to some points as well. So otherwise, ladies, thank you so much. All the best with the work that you do. And I think as a last part, if I'd like to, know more of your artwork, Usha, where can I find out about it? How can I go about that?
So I made it very easy for everybody. You can just look up Usha Seejarim on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm learning how to use TikTok, but my brain still has to work out how to do so. But so Instagram is the main one, and it's under Usha Seejarim.
Arisha?
I've got an art page called Arisha in the Art World. Very simple and cute. So there I post basically just, it's quite open. I just post artworks that I like, exhibitions that are open, and I'm always open to collaborations. So yeah.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much to everyone who's watched this. We have come to an end. So thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Lushozi. Bye, everyone.